All right, from 5 News, I'm meteorologist Stephen Elmore. Let's talk about the winter weather that's finally arrived. This winter storm that we've been talking about for the past several days, finally here. Already starting to see those snowflakes across parts of northwest Arkansas, parts of the river valley as well. But also we're talking about the chances of that wintry mix that's in there as well. We've been talking about how that big difference, right, between 33 degrees and 32 degrees. Across northwest Arkansas, well below freezing as we're just at 10 a.m. right now. But across other parts of the river valley, parts of eastern Oklahoma, still sitting right around 33 to 36 degrees. More coming in as that wintry mix. So here's a look there in Rogers. You can see that snow is coming down already across the area. If you've been driving in and around it, or you're outside, or you're inside, should be inside, looking outside your window and you're seeing that snowfall coming down, you're noticing it's very dusty, it's very light snow. The issue with that is going to be visibility. Already starting to see some visibility issues out there. You look out there, the wind is blowing the snow so easily that the visibility is going to become an issue, especially when we get more accumulation throughout the day today, getting some of those heavier snow bands to mix in now. Now that the snow has started across northwest Arkansas, more than likely not going to let up until we get to late this evening, overnight into Wednesday morning. That's why the accumulation is expected to be so high across northwest Arkansas. While in the river valley right now, we're starting with that wintry mix with some freezing rain, with some of that sleet and some of those snowflakes right now, because temperatures are just above that freezing point. That eventually will transition over into all snow by the time we get later on this evening. Let's take a look all across the area. You see there in Fort Smith, Ozark, not too bad right now. Going to see some spots of some freezing drizzle, some sleet mixing in there as well. But across Springdale, parts of Fayetteville, Bentonville, you can definitely see the snowfall coming down. That intensity is only going to pick up as we continue on throughout the rest of the day today. Here's a look at radar where we stand right now. Again, we've been seeing more and more of these snow showers increasing across northwest Arkansas. Temperature range right around those mid to upper 20s. So any type of precip that we get, it is going to come in the way of those snowflakes. But one thing to start to point out and start to notice is that we're starting to see some of those heavier bands move in, which is going to lead to some slick spots on the roadways. It's going to lead to some visibility issues with the wind that we have out there right now. Some of those lighter snow bands, parts of Benton, parts of Carroll County, and parts of Madison County, but I'm really focusing in on this heavier band that's moving in parts of Fayetteville, Washington County through southern Madison County into northern Franklin County and northern Johnson County. This is going to be the trend that we'll see throughout the rest of the day today. These heavier bands start to mix in. That's going to be our snowmaker. That's going to be what is going to lead to such high accumulation across the area. By the time we get to this evening, and especially by the time we're done with the snowfall for tomorrow, those heavier bands are what's going to lead to higher accumulation. You work across the river valley, take a look at these temperatures. This is the key of why we're seeing some of that wintry mix, some of that freezing drizzle right now, and not yet that snow. It's very spotty right now, but for those who are getting that wintry mix, temperature range right around 32 there in Boonville, 32 in Waldron, 35 in Fort Smith, 34 in Poto, and 33 there in Clarksville. So as we're just on that freezing line, the air temperature not allowing that transition from that wintry mix over into those snowflakes. We knew that this was going to be the transition zone across and along I-40. That was going to be where that freezing line was going to be. Where south of that, we would more than likely have that wintry mix. We're seeing that play out right now. Now, as we get into this evening, as temperatures continue to drop throughout the day, everybody is eventually going to transition over into those snowflakes, but it may take a while. And as long as we get that sleet, it's better than freezing rain, but still going to see some of that freezing drizzle mix in there as well, especially across portions of LaFleur, parts of Scott, parts of Logan. That could lead to more slick spots. That could lead to the potential, at least, of some power outages. Overall, that chance is very low. And over the past 24 hours, that chance has gotten even lower because the track of this system has shifted further south. That's why we increased those snow totals last night. And that's why we're holding at them today, because as that track moved further south, what it did is it's going to increase our snow totals and decrease our chances for any of that freezing rain, decrease the opportunity for more of that sleet as well. So we'll take another look at radar here in just a little bit, but let's continue with the forecast, what we're expecting the rest of the day now that the winter storm has arrived. As it picks up in its intensity later on this afternoon and especially this evening, that's where we're going to get a lot of that accumulation. And again, that dividing line between the sleet and snow mix is really going to be I-40. South of that, that's where we're going to see a majority of that sleet and mixing in with that snow before we drop below freezing later on this afternoon into the evening hours. South of that, that's where we could see a trace up to about 2 inches of some snowfall. Really, the bigger concern would be the freezing rain that would cause some of those slick spots. North of I-40, you get into Washington and Madison County, especially into the Boston Mountains, some higher elevation. That's where you could see 4 up to 8 inches of some snowfall. The reason those numbers increased over the past 24 hours was because that track moved further south. So that's going to bring more of the chances of some higher accumulation. You work even farther north than that, Benton, Carroll County, along the state line, that's where we could see 8 up to 12 inches of some snowfall. Again, it's important to remember here that that snow is going to come in the way of a very light, very dusty snow with the winds that we have throughout the day today. Wind gusts right around 20 to 30 miles per hour. That's going to cause some visibility issues. That's going to cause some of that blowing snow effect. That could be very tricky if you're driving around this evening. We're starting to see that snow right now. We're starting to enter into the timeline of saying, hey, you got a few more things to do out there. Okay, that's fine. But by the time you get to this evening, you're going to make sure you want to be either at home or wherever you're going to be for the night, because the driving conditions tonight, what RDOT is telling us, what the National Weather Service is telling us, not advised to be out this evening, overnight into tomorrow morning, because that's going to be where we're going to see some strong winds, the highest accumulation at that point, and still going to see more snowfall coming down across the area. Let's take it out until 12:30 now. This is where you see, again, focus on these temperatures here. Northwest Arkansas, mid to upper 20s, going to continue to see these heavier snow bands working across the area. As you work south into the river valley, that's where temperatures still going to be hanging around, right around 30, 31, 32. That would be coming in the way of that wintry mix. More of that sleet, more of some of that freezing rain mixing in there. But what you'll notice here is that cooler air is going to sink down throughout the day today, and that freezing line is going to move further south, resulting in more of the way of some snowfall across the river valley. That's why you saw those totals move up as well over the past 24 hours. There's that movement south. By the time we get to this evening, temperatures really starting to drop below freezing now, and we start to see that sleet and that freezing rain fade away and replaced with some snowflakes by the time we get late this evening, overnight into tomorrow morning. Eventually, everybody will start to see that snow rather than that sleet and snow mix. Now, also good news is by the time we get late tonight into tomorrow, the snow intensity should decrease. I think as we head from right now through the afternoon, and especially during the evening rush home, that's when we're going to see the highest intensity of that snowfall rate, where we could see up to about an inch per hour rate when it comes to that snowfall, or even higher than that when it comes to the sleet. Again, it's better than freezing rain, but it's still not fun to drive through, and that's going to pick up in its intensity as well. Again, eventually we will transition over to those snowflakes, but it's going to take until later on this evening as temperatures drop finally below freezing and we get some of that snow. As that system continues to push east, by the time we get around midnight tonight, those snow showers become more and more spotty, and especially by tomorrow morning, for your 5 News this morning, we'll be done with the snow, but then the issue becomes how cold it's going to be outside and how that's going to affect those RDOT crews from getting this cleaned up. It's going to cause some slowdowns. It's going to cause a slower process of getting the snowfall cleared up because it's so cold outside. Dave Parker with RDOT was telling us this morning that when you're outside and you're shoveling that snow and it's that cold outside, usually you move slower. It's the same for their equipment as well. It's the same for their crews as well. They get tired, they get worn down, and the cold factor to it is going to play a role in this winter storm. Here's a look at the latest advisories, warnings, and watches we have across the area. Winter storm watch still in effect, or winter weather advisory, across across the river valley, northwest Arkansas. That's where we have that winter storm warning. I imagine we could see some changes throughout the day today if we start to see that snow moving in a little bit earlier. Really though, no matter what color you have shaded there, just know you're going to have some winter weather throughout the day today. It doesn't matter what county you're in, what color you're shaded, it's going to be a significant amount of snowfall, significant amount of some of that sleet throughout the day today. So let's break down each individual weather impact alert that we have. Just checking our time right now, got another cut in about 20 minutes or so. So we got plenty of time here to discuss the rest of the day, and not only today, but Wednesday and Thursday as well. Today, we are hyper-focused on what that precip is going to be like. We have those heavier bands of snow mixing in across northwest Arkansas right now. We have that sleet mixing in across the river valley. Valley right now. That precip ends, again, by the time we get late tonight, overnight into tomorrow. Then the focus turns to how cold it's going to be. This evening, we'll see those wind chill values already into the negatives. By the time we wake up tomorrow morning for our Wednesday, the snowfall is done, but then we're going to feel like we're between 10 and -10 across northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. So that plays into also with those school closures. Obviously, they're going to make their own independent decisions on whether to go to school or not. But you already have the accumulation on the roadways, on those side roads. That's going to take a while to clean up as well. But now you have to factor in it is feeling like we're anywhere between 10 to -10, and that's just Wednesday. Thursday, we get even cooler outside, and we could see those wind chill values anywhere from -5 to -20. We'll take a look at that here in a second. This is the Winter Storm Severity Index, and what it means is it's a big fancy term for how bad is this storm actually going to be? This hasn't moved much in the past couple hours or so. Really, the major impacts are expected across northwest Arkansas, minor impacts across the River Valley. I got a question earlier of saying, so minor impacts across the River Valley is what the index is showing, but then you say that travel impacts are going to be high. I can understand how that could be confusing. What this means is that there is going to be higher snowfall accumulation in northwest Arkansas. So the index suggests that there would be more in the way of major impacts. Because there's less in the way of snow accumulation in the River Valley, the index shows minor impacts, right? But we're still dealing with sleet. We're still dealing with snow mixing in there as well. But just because of the amount of snow that we're going to receive in northwest Arkansas is much higher than in the River Valley, that's why you see that major category there for Benton, Carroll, parts of Washington, parts of Madison. This travel index is really going to, we're getting into the territory now where this is getting to the point where, again, you need to start making those plans of where you're going to be for the rest of the day. By the time we get to this afternoon, we're already going to have some accumulation on the roadways, northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. By the time we get to this evening, you join us at 3, 4, 5, 6, and even at 10. We're going to be live streaming as well through that. Those road conditions more than likely are going to be very difficult outside. Very highly advised not to be outside this evening. But if you have to, just know that those driving conditions are going to be at its worst this evening. And again, that snowfall rate doesn't stop until we get to about midnight tonight. And then from midnight to tomorrow morning till we see sunrise tomorrow, it's going to be about clearing those roadways up. Of course, RDOT going to start with those major interstates and highways and then work their way out to those side roads. But the traveling tonight, highly advised against that. If you have to, maybe grab a few more things right now before the snowfall really starts to pick up by the time we get to this afternoon. Again, the other key to this, like we've discussed, is the snow type. It is not that wet snow that's good for snowmen and snowball fights and whatever it may be. It's a very dry, it's a very dusty, light snow, and because of the winds that we have out there, the visibility, the blowing snow is going to be an issue. I wish I could tell you that these winds die down throughout the day, but really they don't. We're going to see those wind gusts right around 20 to 30 miles per hour throughout the day and into tomorrow. So those snow drifts, those blowing snow drifts, going to cause some visibility issues, and it's going to lead to those slick spots as well. Let's take another look at the accumulation. If you're just now joining us, this is what we're expecting by the time this system is done and over with. Parts of extreme northwest Arkansas. We're talking anywhere from Decatur to Bentonville, Pea Ridge, Gravette, War Eagle out to Eureka Springs. 8 to 12 inches of snow will definitely be possible because just to our friends to the north across the state line in southern Missouri, that's where you could see maybe up to 14 inches of snowfall. So again, we are just shy of reaching where the max snowfall would be from this system. You work further south, parts of the Boston Mountains, 4 to 8 inches, Washington, Madison County from Hinesville, Huntsville, Elkins, Fayetteville, Farmington, Springdale, West Fork, that's where you could see generally around 4 up to 8 inches of snow. Obviously, if you're in that higher elevation, driving further south through the Boston Mountains, that's where you could find some higher accumulation as well. Here's that transition line, though, where you move from all snow to a snow and sleet mix across and along I-40 there in the River Valley. 2 to 5 inches of snow is still going to cause some impacts. But that sleet mixing in there is going to be another factor to it. And the reason why we're seeing less in the way of that snowfall accumulation is because we're going to be right around that 32 to 33 mark, leading to more sleet as we drop into those upper 20s. That's where we'll transition more to that snow, and that's why you see across parts of Scott, parts of Logan, parts of LaFleur, where it's going to take a little bit longer to hit that upper 20 mark. We're going to see less in the way of snow, but more in the way of that freezing rain as well. Again, the good news is the freezing rain estimation has decreased a lot over the past 24 hours, but if you do find some, it's going to be in Scott, it's going to be in LaFleur, it's going to be in Logan County as well. We look at the ice estimation, what we could see, right around 1/10 up to 1/4 of an inch of ice further south you work. Not the worst we've seen, but it can lead to some slick spots. It can lead to some low chances of a few power outages here and there. That's definitely not a high risk, but if you did have some, it would generally be where the ice is going to be highest, and that would be across parts of Scott, parts of Logan, parts of LaFleur as well. So let's talk about what's next after that. We talked about the closures, we talked about the travel conditions. After this, it's the extreme cold. We were just talking about it a minute ago. Wednesday, that range 10 to -10. By Thursday, we're seeing those wind chill values in the morning hours, -5 to -20. That is that dangerous cold where we talk about exposure outside, covering up that skin as best as possible is going to be crucial. Because by the time you get outside and it's -10 and that wind is blowing and it's blowing all that heat off your body, it does not take long to start to feel the cold, dangerous effects from that when it's that cold outside. So that's where the attention is going to turn after the snowfall is done for our Wednesday and Thursday, and even into Friday. We're going to be dealing with some very cold temperatures as well. That's shown from the National Weather Service with that warning that we have across the area. That's for the extreme cold that we're expecting. It used to be that wind chill advisory. Now they've just named it something different. It just means the same thing, that it's going to be very cold outside starting this evening, lasting through Thursday is when we have that warning until, but that doesn't mean that Friday is still not going to be very cold outside. Still thinking those wind chill values would be in the single digits or at least in the negatives as well. Wind chill values for your Wednesday morning look like this: single digits across the river valley, at least close to -10 across northwest Arkansas. Again, that's going to also play a factor in maybe seeing those schools saying, hey, not yet, because even if the roads were clear, it's still too cold outside. And if you think that's cold, look at Thursday. That range between -5 as low as -20 in northwest Arkansas. Across the river valley, -5 to -10 will definitely be possible. Hopefully by then the roads start to clear up just a bit, but then it's an issue of just how cold it is. This is that pipe bursting cold. The last event we had was the pipe bursting cold, and it wasn't even close to how cold this is. So again, we've talked to those plumbers, we've talked to those experts in this field saying, dripping the faucets, absolutely, but also opening up the cabinets, trying to cover up those outdoor spigots as well. Anything that you can do to prepare your home for -5 to -20, best you can do is at least drip those faucets. Try to open up those cabinets as well, let some warm air underneath there, because this is going to be that dangerous cold outside. Here's a look at Friday. Again, nothing when it comes to that warning or advisory just yet, but it's still going to be very cold outside, and we get a little bit better. Anywhere from, again, 10 to about -10 would be the range once again for our Friday morning. Northwest Arkansas over the next 7 days. Weather impact alert continues through Thursday. By the time we get to the weekend, we start to warm back finally above that freezing mark. And believe it or not, by the time we get to next week, we'll be in the low to mid 60s, and this will be all a long forgotten memory as we continue this roller coaster effect that we've been on. But again, today is the day we're hyper-focused on that winter precip coming down right now. We'll take another look at radar here in just a second, since we have a little bit more time before that next cut-in on Channel 5. You take a look across the river valley, same story, weather impact alert for today, tomorrow, and Thursday. We warm back up over the weekend, and then next week we get some warmer air back into the low 60s, and we'll just be talking around the water cooler of how terrible that winter storm was, right? How cold it was outside. We'll finally get to warm back up by the time we get to Monday next week, back up into those low 60s. Again, across the river valley today, what we're dealing with right now is that sleet snow mix across most of the river valley. Some areas seeing some of that snow coming down right now. But this evening, we will transition eventually all into that snow once temperatures drop well below that freezing mark. Here's another look at radar. Northwest Arkansas, you see some of those heavier bands starting to mix in. An important thing to note as you watch our coverage the rest of the day today, lighter colors is those lighter bands that are moving across the area, darker colors, that darker blue shade is where you'll start to see some of those heavier bands in. And unfortunately, more than likely, you'll see a lot of those darker bands throughout the rest of this evening as we continue to see that highest snowfall rate pick up later on today. Let's take a closer look across northwest Arkansas. Those snow showers coming down across Benton, parts of Carroll, parts of Madison. But where those heavier bands are mixing in right now, just south of Fayetteville, that's going to continue to trend that way as this system continues to push off towards the east, towards the northeast. Going to be seeing these snow showers continue as long as we have that precip moving into an area with temperature ranges between mid to upper 20s, it's going to come in the way of mainly snow. We could see some sleet mix in there as well. But this is where that highest accumulation is going to be across northwest Arkansas, across the river valley. The reason that accumulation may be a little bit lower is because right now we're starting to just see that wintry mix across the area where its temperatures are anywhere between 33 up to 36. Parts of Waldron, parts of Boonville, through Sebastian County, parts of LaFleur, into Sequoia County, starting to really see that wintry mix first. But as it tracks up towards the north, it's making that transition from some sleet, maybe some freezing rain, over into those snowflakes as it pushes up towards the north. Here's one last look at our accumulation. What we're thinking is going to be our final totals. Extreme parts of northwest Arkansas, parts of Benton, parts of Carroll, 8 up to 12 inches will be possible. Washington, Madison County through the Boston Mountains, 4 to 8 inches across the river valley, that transition zone that we've been talking about, I-40, less in the way of that heavy snowfall accumulation. Still 2 to 5 inches is going to cause those impacts, but more of that sleet snow mix. And then once you get to Scott, parts of Logan, parts of LaFleur, less in the way of that snowfall accumulation. A trace up to 2 inches will definitely be possible, but this is also where you could find some of that freezing rain. We have that show today at 3, 4, 5, 6, and then again at 10. We're going to be providing updates throughout the day as well when it comes to this system as we start to see more in the way of some accumulation. Chief Meteorologist Scott Covert is waving me down over here.
Starting at 11,
okay.
This stream is going to be constant with radar, cameras, road conditions, and every 15 minutes, one of us will give an update.
Okay.
So keep it right here. This stream's not going anywhere.
If you didn't catch him, because he's still getting ready, getting his mic on, all things like that, this stream is going to remain constant starting at around 11 o'clock. And then every 15 minutes, you'll see one meteorologist, or maybe both of us, provide some of those updates on where we're standing right now. But in between that time, you'll see cameras looping, you'll see radar looping as well, just to get a quick check of where that snowfall, where that sleet would be mixing in as well. But we're going to be providing all those updates that you need throughout the day today. We want to provide the best information for you as you're maybe sitting indoors waiting to see if these snow totals end up being what they actually are. Taking that meter stick outside and seeing how close we came to the accumulation by the time we get to tomorrow, but also trying to make those plans as well. If you've got family, you've got friends out on the roadways right now, or they're at work right now, and they have to drive later tonight, we want to make sure that they know what those road conditions are going to look like. That's what we'll be providing throughout the day today. Stay tuned for more information. Got another cut in on Channel 5 here in about 6 minutes, and we'll have several updates throughout the day today.